And God says, why are you grumbling and complaining? You see, God took them into the wilderness to teach them lessons, to teach them to rely upon Him, to teach them about His sustaining power, to draw their focus on Him, to show them how to follow His direction. God had so many lessons for them in the wilderness. And instead of learning the lessons gratefully, they're all grumbling. Oh, I want to go back to Egypt. I mean, yeah, we were enslaved, but we could eat leeks and onions by the Nile. In the wilderness, we better learn who we are, just as we better learn who God is. The Israelites found themselves to be idolatrous, whiny, complaining, sniveling, self-centered people. You say, oh, how terrible of them. Well, go through your own wilderness experience and you'll start seeing those traits in yourself. You'll find yourself complaining, why am I in the wilderness? Why did God do this to me? I could do so many better things if I were not here. You'll find yourself trying to infuse significance that may not be God's significance. That's idolatry. You'll find yourself trying to turn the wilderness into something that you find yourself out of. That's not right either. Here's what we need to do in the wilderness. We need to learn who we are by learning who God is. And the cloud, the pillar of cloud that led Israel through, moved from in front of Israel to behind Israel and threw Pharaoh's army into confusion and in essence protected Israel. And that's an interesting aspect of living through a wilderness time of life. You find not only that it's important to focus on following God, but when you follow God, God will also be defending you. If necessary, He moves from the front to the back to cover your six, as some might say, to cover your back. The manna always conveyed the idea of God's meeting the needs of His people. And so in the book of Revelation in the New Testament, there's 7 letters to 7 churches in that book. And one of them is a letter to the church at Pergamum. That was a town in Turkey. And in the letter to the church at Pergamum, Jesus, who's the author of the letter in a sense, writes and says, I know where you dwell. I know what you're going through. I know that some of you have even been martyred for the sake of the faith. He says, that's a very difficult place and time where you are. But I also know that you're having trouble because you're getting distracted, and some of you are holding to the things of Balaam. That's one of the adversaries the Israelites had in the wilderness. And he says, don't do that. Repent. Stay pure. And to the one who conquers, I'll give hidden manna. The idea that even though you've been through a wilderness, and even though I've been through a wilderness, we're able at the end to proclaim that we are saved by the Lord, that He's been our shield who's protected us, as well as our sword who has triumphed for us and in us and through us. The wilderness is not any place anybody really chooses to go and camp for a long period of time in their life. But there are lessons that are learned in the wilderness that aren't learned anywhere else. And when God teaches us those lessons, difficult as they may be to learn, it changes and transforms who we are to His glory and to our benefit.